আসসালামু আলাইকুম। কে আছো ভাই?
আসসালামু আলাইকুম। আসসালামু আলাইকুম স্যার।
আসসালামু আলাইকুম স্যার।
কেমন আছো?
আলহামদুলিল্লাহ স্যার ভালো।
ভালো।
আপনি ভালো আছেন?
স্যার আপনি ভালো আছেন?
হ্যাঁ, গুড, ভেরি গুড। ভালো না? এমনি কোনো আলাপ টালাপ করি অফিসে, তো একটু আলাপ করে নেই। কোনো প্রবলেম? দেয়ার অল ম্যাটার, কোনো প্রবলেম, সমস্যা? কর্পোরেট লজ এন্ড প্র্যাকটিস, হ্যাঁ, ওই সাজেস্টেড আনসার আজকে একটা মিটিং করছি আমরা, তো আশা করতেছি দিয়ে দেবো। নো ওয়ারি, একটু এই সপ্তাহটা দেই, ওই যে এক্সাম থেকে র কপি দেয়, তারপরটা রিভিউ করতে হয়। রেকর্ডিংটা একটু পরে করি, রেকর্ডিংটা অফ করা যায় না? স্যার আসলে পরে দিয়ে
স্যার আমরা এক্সাম দিতে কি কোনো সার্টিফিকেট লাগবে, ক্লাস সার্টিফিকেট?
এই রেকর্ডিংটা অফ করে রাখি, দুই একটা ছাত্রদের ইন্ডিপেন্ডেন্ট কথাবার্তা হবে তো। রেকর্ডিংটা কি অফ করতে পারবে? রাশেদ, আমাদের মামুন নাকি? হ্যাঁ মামুন, ওই যে আমাদের সিও স্যারের ক্লাসের রেকর্ডিংটা অফ রাখো, পরে দিও। হ্যাঁ, ও এটা রেকর্ডিংটা অফ করতে পারবে না? একটু কথাবার্তা বলি, ফ্রি অ্যান্ড ফেয়ার। ওই যে আমাদের সিও স্যারের ক্লাস রাশেদুল, আচ্ছা আসি একটু, সেটা হলো যে একটা
I believe you have got one synopsis, and we can discuss on the basis of the synopsis, because that will make us in a comfortable position to understand everyone on specific issues. Otherwise, it would be a random discussion without pointing to any problem. So here, if you look at the synopsis I have distributed through the students counseling department, and if you have already gone through that, there are some problems. And I hope that you are holding the synopsis with you. And in that case, we can discuss one by one. Number one issue is relating to the problems of a retired government servant. Since you are going to be a chartered accountant in future, and you will be consulting the clients, you may be working in an organization, or you may be practicing chartered accountancy in a firm. So in any case, you need to know some of the issues like accounting issues, auditing issues, income tax issues, company law issues, etc., because you have to advise them. And people will be coming to you, maybe from within the country or from outside of the country, maybe an entrepreneur or investor. So an investor from another country could come to Bangladesh in order to seek your advice. How to invest in Bangladesh? Which sector would be profitable for him? What are the rules and regulations relating to the investment? And definitely a question will be asked about the income tax law of the country. So what type of law is in practice in Bangladesh? Is it a progressive law of taxation? Is it a regressive law of taxation? Is it proportional rate of taxation being applied here? So anything could be asked. And if you do not know about all the laws prevailing in Bangladesh, you would not be able to answer the questions properly. So if you cannot answer the questions, you will lose the client. And hence, you would need to know about law. So the retired government servant who has approached you about his investment, the best investment he wants to make, because he is a fixed income government servant, and that's why he had to maintain his livelihood with fixed income. And hence, he would be getting some money, because at the end of his retirement, he will be having pension money. At the same time, he will be having gratuity money and a lump grant, which you may call leave engagement, etc. So these are the benefits he will be having at the end of his retirement. So one example has been given here. And in that example, it has been mentioned that the government servant, he has retired in 2018. And at the time of his retirement, he drew a salary of Taka 82,000, which was a basic salary for him. So in addition to the basic salary, he had some other emoluments, medical allowance, maybe conveyance allowance, or he was provided with a car and some other allowances, etc. he has asked you to calculate the pension money he will be having every month and the gratuity amount that he will be receiving at a time as a retired government servant. And afterwards, he wants to make his investment with the money he will be receiving from the government in some profitable sector. Of course, the question is the sector should be the most secure one, because there are many sectors in which he can invest, but each and every sector would not be secure. So your duty will be to advise him accordingly. That means you have to advise him so that he can invest in the most profitable sector, of course, in the most secure sector, and which will be free from risk. So these are the considerations we have to make. So what information have you been given? The information is his monthly salary, last basic pay was 82,000 taka per month. That was his basic salary, other than medical allowance, conveyance allowance, or you see, education allowance or any other allowances. So what is to be calculated by you? 3 figures have to be calculated by you. One figure is lump amount or the leave encashment. Another figure is the monthly pension money you will be receiving every month from the government. And thirdly, the gratuity amount or the amount of gratuity. So these are the 3 figures you will be calculating, and then you have to see whether he has got an outstanding amount due to the government. And it is also given in the information that he owes taka 8 lakh to the government for his car loan. That means government gave him car loan and he was paying back the money every month. But at the end of his retirement, the outstanding balance has stood at taka 8 lakhs, which he needs to pay to the government, because he will no longer be receiving salary every month. So he cannot pay back the salary, the loan money every month. Rather, he has to pay it off in one go at the time of retirement. And then the question is where to invest, in which sectors he would be advised to invest. So a retired government servant can invest in pension sanchaya patra, in family sanchaya patra, in 3 monthly profit-based sanchaya patra, or in any other sanchaya patra issued by the government if he has got an opportunity to do that. But normally these are the saving certificates which should be taken into account for investment. Now let us suppose how to calculate the pension money. Any idea from your side?
Normally, this is depend on government circular. That means job duration if 20 years, then percentage of 75% basic last month basic into maybe nowadays 120 times basic into 120 times now into 75%. After if his job period is 25 years off, if the period is 20 years, then maybe this is 50%. I'm not sure. System, this is now. Is it okay or not?
Let us suppose the person concerned, he has served the government for 35 years. So this is the very due time for him to retire. And his salary was 82,000 taka. So that means he was in the rank of a senior secretary to the government. So that's why he completed his full tenure. That means he served the government up to the last position of a government servant. In that case, 25 years or 20 years will not be taken into account. Here, the most important thing to take into account is that how much would be the pension money, how to calculate the pension money, that you have to know. The pension money has to be calculated on the basis of the last basic pay. So last basic pay is how much?
82,000.
82,000. So you have to calculate 90% of this 82,000. How much does it come? %90 of 82,000. So you have to calculate the figure. What is the figure?
73,800.
73,800. Okay, that is the figure which should be taken into account for calculating pension money and the gratuity money. So these 73,800, you divide it into two parts. So how much for each part? 36,900. Is it
900.
36,900. So this 36,900 would be the pension money for the retired government servant per month. But in addition to this, he will be entitled to getting medical allowances, 1,500 taka. And on the first day of July, he will also be receiving an allowance at the rate of 5% as inflation. So that is different thing. But in order to calculate the pension money would be 36,900. That's the pension money he will be getting every month. Okay. So another part, that is also 36,900 because we divided 73,800. So the other part, which is 50% of 73,800, which is 36,900, has to be multiplied by 230. So if you multiply that figure, that means 36,900 by 230, how much does it come?
$160.
No.
84,87,000.
Yes. 84,87,000. That is the figure he will be receiving at a time as gratuity money. So here you see one thing, the retired government servant, he has got an outstanding balance to the government, which he took as car loan. So car loan, maybe it was 25 lakhs taka or 30 lakhs taka, as the case may be. So in 2018 or 2017 or 2016, when the car loan was taken, that was 25 lakhs taka provided by the government to the employee. So this 84 lakhs, 87,000, it has to be deducted by taka 8 lakh, because 8 lakh is owed to the government. So government will not pay him 84 lakh 87,000. Rather, government will deduct taka 8 lakh from that, and the rest amount will be paid back to him. So that is the figure of gratuity. But generally, if he does not have any outstanding balance to the government, in that case, his entitlement is 84,87,000. So that's the figure he will be receiving as, gratuity money. Just one moment. Sorry. So what we were discussing is that the gratuity amount could be calculated in that way, 84,87,000. And now come to another point. Another point is he has got some money from the Provident Fund, because this is a government Provident Fund, and contribution of the government employees will go to that fund. That means only contribution from the employee would go to the fund. The employer will not contribute anything to the fund. So that's why the full amount of contribution and the interest accrued thereon has to be given back to the employee after retirement. So how much the figure of the Provident Fund that has to be calculated, and I believe that is 1 crore taka in total. 1 crore taka means contribution plus interest accrued thereon. But it has also been said that this amount is more than the figure consisting of the contribution to the fund along with the interest accrued thereon. And that figure was more by taka 10 lakhs. It means that 90 lakhs taka was from the fund as contribution and interest accrued thereon. And the other 10 lakh taka, that was not from the contribution and interest accrued thereon. So that should be treated as a figure which has been given government for other purposes, maybe. So if it is so, if you receive money from the Provident Fund, that is not included in the total income for income tax calculation. But here, since it has exceeded the amount of contribution and the interest thereon, so that's why this 10 lakh taka would have to be included in the total income for income tax purposes. That could be treated as a perquisite. So this has to be taxed. And another figure you have to calculate, and that figure is lump amount. That means you can say leave encashment, and a government servant is entitled to having equivalent to 18 months basic pay as lump amount. So his salary was 82,000 taka, and he is entitled to having a total figure equivalent to 18 months of this salary. So 18 times 82,000, and it's something for 14 lakh something. So if it is 14 lakh something, that figure has to be paid to the government servant as lump amount or leave encashment. So that's why that is also not taken into account for income tax purposes, because Finance Division has issued a circular exempting that income from tax calculation. So now question is in which sectors he has to invest. So it is the option of the retired government servant to invest in any sector. But as a chartered accountant, and since he has sought your advice, you have to advise him in a very effective way so that he is not at risk of anything, or he can get some interest which is reasonable among the prevailing rates of interest. Because if he invests in FDR in a bank, the interest rate is not that high nowadays. It is maybe at 6% or 6.5%, not more than that. But if he invests in the pension savings certificate, that will yield him a higher amount of interest. And for 3 months, he will be receiving figure at a time, and which will be for 50 lakhs of taka investment. It will be, I think, 40,235, something like that, every month. So he will be receiving a figure for 3 months together, and each month it is more or less 40,235. And the government servant can invest in family Sanchaya Patra, which is called family savings certificate, in the name of his wife or in the name of his daughter. So which is 45 lakhs taka, a maximum amount could be invested. And for that, he would be receiving around 38,000 taka, 38,880 taka per month. And that should come in the account of his spouse every month. So 95 lakhs taka could be invested in these two sectors, and the rest amount, out of rest amount, he can invest 5 lakh taka in the 3 monthly Sanchaya Patra. That means the interest has to be accrued every month, but it has to be paid to the government servant each 3 month basis, 3 monthly basis. So if he invests 5 lakh taka, it could be 12,000 something for 3 months, something like that. So I think this suggestion is the best suggestions you have to make to the government servant for investment. I believe you have to advise him that way, so that from you, and he will, as a client of your firm or of yourself, for the rest of his life. So this is the calculation, and the suggestion is like that. Okay, take a check. Is it okay for you? Is it all right for everybody?
Yes, sir.
Yes?
Yes, sir.
Okay, good. If it is okay for you, then we move to problem number 2. Problem number 2, what is said there? Here it is said, an officer of Bangladesh Jute Mills Corporation. So Bangladesh Jute Mills Corporation is under the Ministry of Jute and Textile. And the officer was granted deputation for 3 years to study master's program and MPhil in a foreign university. So that officer was serving in the Bangladesh Jute Mills Corporation, and he was granted deputation from the government to study master's program and MPhil program in a foreign university. So that was for a period of 3 years. He did not come to Bangladesh during this period. During the 3-year period, the officer did not come back to Bangladesh. When he came back to Bangladesh after 3 years, he submitted individual returns for 3 years at a time. The Deputy Commissioner of Taxes imposed penalty and delay interest for late submission of the returns. He sought your advice as a chartered accountant to redress the suffering. Advise him properly. So how to advise him? What he did, whether he did lawfully or not, whether the DCT was right in imposing penalty on him or on imposing delay interest on him. Now we have to discuss it, how to write the answer for this.
What I think, he was supposed to submit return in Bangladesh embassy or the said country where he was deported for 3 years. And the DCT, what I think he did not, the DCT imposed penalty and delay interest, what I think it's appropriate because he did not comply the law. Thank you, sir.
Okay, so this is your suggestion, and you will actually tell the officer that the DCT did the right thing by imposing penalty and delay interest while calculating income tax. So that is your advice. Now how to redress the issue? What to do then?
The issue, if the DCT, the penalty and the penalty delay interest, probably it must be paid if the income is taxable. But the timing, for the timing, what I think the DCT may relax for the officer.
Okay. So when to submit the return by an individual? An individual is supposed to submit the return for the assessment year. That means showing income of the income year, concerned income year. So when to submit the return, usually as per law, without prejudice to any penalty.
September 30, tax before tax day.
September 30.
November 30.
November 30.
November 30.
Sorry, so November 30.
Yes, it is November 30, not September 30. Once upon a time, it was September 30, And again, it was September 15, but for some years now, it is November 30, which is called the tax day. So you have to submit the return by 30th November, before or on that day. You can submit the return any day when the assessment year starts, that is the first day of July, and any day before the tax day or on the tax day, you can submit. But if you do not submit, or if you have some problems with the submission of the return, what shall you do?
Sir, I may pray for time extension. The DCT have the power to up to 30 days, and with the permission of IJCT, another 60 days to submit the return.
The city has got the power to extend the time for 30 days or 60
No,
days?
sir, 60 days, 60 days, sir. 60 days and another 60 days with the approval of IJCT.
The city
And
can
commission.
first extend the time for 60 days. On
Yes,
his-
sir.
And if the assessor needs some more time, then he can extend the time for another 60 days with the written approval of the inspecting joint commissioner of taxes. That is his supervising boss. So he might be an inspecting joint commissioner of taxes or an inspecting additional commissioner of taxes, any of the two. So in all, the DCT can extend the time for 4 months. That is possible. And within that 4 months, the assessor would be able to submit the return and no penalty would be imposed on him. But here, in this case, the officer did not submit the return in the embassy. He did not submit it in the embassy. Maybe he was away from embassy or he was far away from embassy, because embassy is not located in every city of that country. So for example, in the USA, so in USA, the embassy is in Washington, DC, but he might be posted in Los Angeles, or he might be posted in a very remote place in the USA where the university is located. So maybe in Minnesota, there could be a university and he could be studying there, but he did not have any chance to submit the return in the embassy. And in that case, he refrained from submitting the return. But here, the main issue is the officer is not required to submit the return in the embassy. He is not required to submit it. He can come back to Bangladesh after finishing his course. That is after 3 years. He can come back to Bangladesh and submit the returns for the period at a time. That means covering the 3 assessment years. That is also possible. And that is the legal point that he would be sticking to. You can look at section 75. Section 75(5). If you go to that section, what would you see there? If you go to section 75, subsection 5, then let us see what is written there. Here it is said, every return under this section shall be filed unless the date is extended under subsection 6 on or before the tax day. This is written here. Provided that an individual being government official engaged in higher education or training on deputation or leave, or employed under lien outside Bangladesh shall file return or returns for the period of such deputation or lien at a time within 3 months from the date of his return to Bangladesh. So he can come to Bangladesh, and after his return to Bangladesh, within 3 months' time, he can submit all the returns at a time. So that is under section 75(5). And that's why the DCT cannot impose any penalty or delay interest, whatever it is, on the calculation of income of the concerned officer. If he has done it, he has done it wrongly, unlawfully. So that cannot be accepted in the eye of law. So your point would be to prefer an appeal to the Appellate Joint Commissioner of Taxes or Appellate Additional Commissioner of Taxes as per the jurisdiction of the circle. And in that case, you can cite this section, refer to this section, and the Appellate Joint Commissioner or Appellate Additional Commissioner will just cancel it. That is, annul it. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Okay, sir.
All right. So just tell me one thing. If you are an SSC, individual SSC, you can submit the return under section 75. So what does it mean? If I say that you are supposed to submit the return under section 75, what does it mean? Anything you can tell me?
স্যার কে রিটার্ন দেবে সেটা বলা হয়েছে স্যার।
Yes, those who will be submitting the return, that is said here, but as well as it is automatic. That means the responsibility lies with the individual SSCs to submit the return, and there will be no notice issued to the SSC. No notice will be issued to the SSC, and he has to submit the return on his own, because there is a time specified in the income tax ordinance. That is the tax day. So it is already described in the law that you can submit the return any day before or on the tax day. Otherwise, you can
ট্যাক্স
get the time extended by the Deputy Commissioner of Taxes. This tax day could be extended by the National Board of Revenue if it thinks that there are some reasons for which the time should be extended, maybe because of the natural calamities, or because of some economic problems or pandemic situation, etc. The time could be extended, because this year means the current assessment year, the tax day was extended up to 31st day of December. It was not 30th day of November, and it was because of the pandemic situation. So the National Board of Revenue has got the authority to extend the time for submission of the return. And
Yes,
it
sir,
is
as per
before.
section 184G.
Yes, yes. And as I told you before, that no notice will be issued to you by the Deputy Commissioner of Taxes asking you to submit the return. You have to do it on your own. Okay, now let us see. The tax day has gone. Your time extended. Now, what is the responsibility of the DCT, or what is the function of the DCT? Tax day, that is, let us suppose 30th November is the tax day, and 30th November is over. Now the SSC has not submitted the return by 30th November. And now what would be the function or responsibility of the Deputy Commissioner of Taxes in order to obtain the return from you?
Sir, to issue notice to submit the return.
Under which section?
77, sir.
77.
Okay. He has to issue a notice under section 77 asking you to submit the return.
Yes, sir.
How long would he be able to issue the notice?
21 days, sir.
No. 21 days time is given to you in order to submit the return. But how long would he be able to issue that notice? Up to which time? Because he cannot issue the notice under section 77 before the tax day or on the tax day. So he has to issue the notice after the tax day. The day following the tax day, he can issue the notice. But up to how long would he be able to issue that notice under section 77? Say for this assessment year. So let us suppose that the 31st December was the tax day, and 31st December gone. After that, that is from the first day of January, the Deputy Commissioner of Taxes was supposed to issue a notice under section 77 asking for return from the SSCs who have not submitted the return before. So up to how long he would be able to issue such a notice? He would be able to issue such a notice up to the 30th day of this year, that is 2022, 30th day of June 2022. That is on the last day of the assessment year. Up to that day, he can issue a notice under section 77 if you haven't submitted the return. Okay. But if you do not submit the return by 30th day of June, or the notice was not issued on the 30th day of June, then what happens? What would be the function of the Deputy Commissioner? Would not issue a notice under section 77, even the 30th day of June was passed. That means after 30th day of June, what shall the DCT do with regard to obtaining the returns from the SSCs? So after 30th day of June 2022, the DCT cannot issue notice under section 77. Rather, he has to issue a notice under section 93 to obtain return from an SSC. Okay. That he has to do like that. Is it clear to you or not?
Clear, sir.
Okay. Then we can move to problem 3. What is said here? A doctor purchased a medical equipment for his chamber and used it for 5 years. The equipment was purchased at Taka 5 lakh. The doctor showed the cost of the equipment after charging depreciation at the rate of 10% each year on straight line basis. After 5 years, the doctor decided to replace the equipment with a more advanced one. The written down value was Taka 2,50,000. He disposed of the equipment at Taka 5,50,000. Advise the doctor the effect of the sale on his income for tax calculation. So this information has been given to you as a chartered accountant, and the doctor was seeking your advice. Maybe he was your client. So what advice could you give him? So it is very much clear from the problem that he is a practicing doctor and he has got professional income. So he practices. So that's why the equipment was used in his chamber. And the equipment cost him 5 lakh. Now, the equipment has been used by him for 5 years. And he charged depreciation on the cost of the equipment. Now he has decided to sell it off because he wants to replace it with a more advanced equipment. That means sometimes it is very necessary to have a more advanced equipment. It will give him good results, or he can experiment with that equipment in an effective manner. So he wants to replace it. And he disposed of the equipment at Taka 5,50,000. But it is seen that he purchased the equipment at 5 lakh because that time maybe market price was low and now the market price has gone up. So that's why even if the equipment is old, still then he has been able to sell it at 5,50,000. Now, what advice can you give him on the sale and on the purchase of the new machinery, new equipment?
There are two facts. First one is the total gain
Sir,
of the
company gain and-
disposal assets. So the selling price is 550,000 and the written down value was 250,000. That's why the difference is 300,000. And the 300,000 is a combination of 50,000 capital gain and 250,000 is the profit from sale of disposal. And the 250,000 would be the normal regular interest, and the 50,000 would be as per capital gain 15%. Thank you, sir.
Okay. So we
My
have to,
advice is that if he purchase another machineries within 1 year with that money, that for that reason his capital gain on tax will be exempted.
okay, that should be the advice. So you have to advise him in a very comfortable way. That means he will have the options before him, and he has to choose one of the options which will best suit him. But before advising him on that issue, you have to calculate the incomes he will be earning from the sale of the equipment. So here, the information you need is that the cost of acquisition has to be known to you. The cost of acquisition is here, 5 lakh taka. And now the written down value is also there. Written down value is 2,50,000 taka. And the sale price or sale proceed, it is also there, which is taka 5,50,000. So if you deduct written down value from the sale proceed, it is 3 lakhs taka. 3 lakhs taka would be his total profit. Now you have to calculate the capital gain if there is any, and the professional income or profit from sale of the equipment, which will also be treated as professional income or income from profession, or in case of a business, it will be business income under section 28. Here also it will be professional income under section 28. And when the capital gain will arise, that will under section 31. So which section you have to refer to? That means in order to calculate the gain, capital gain, etc., for the transaction, which section you have to refer to?
Section 32.
No, not section 32. You have to refer to section 1916. Section 19, subsection 16. So if you go to section 19, subsection 16, you will see what has been written there. Any building, plant, machinery having been used by the business is disposed of, and the sale proceeds exceeds the written down value. So much of the excess as does not exceed the difference between the original cost and the written down value would be business income or professional income. Up to these, it has been said in this section. So what does it indicate? It indicates that if the sale proceed exceeds the written down value, the sale proceed is taka 5,50,000. It has exceeded the written down value, taka 2,50,000. And by how much it has exceeded? By taka 3 lakh. It has exceeded. So taka 3 lakh is the total gain or profit. But it is also said there that so much of the excess, this excess means the 3 lakh taka. So much of the excess as does not exceed the difference between the original cost and the written down value. What is the original cost? Original cost means cost of acquisition, which is 5 lakhs. And written down value, 2,50,000. So difference between the two is 50,000. So much of the excess.
250 lakhs.
So much of the excess, that means, 2,50,000. That is the excess money.
50,000.
2,50,000.
250,000.
So much of the excess. So here, 2,50,000, that is up to that amount. It could be treated as the professional income or business income. But what about the rest money? The rest money is taka 50,000.
Capital gain, sir.
That is the
Capital gain, sir.
Yes, but it is not mentioned here. In this section 1916, it is not mentioned, but you have to understand it from the version of the law. নমস্কার বর্তা। So 50,000 would be calculated as the capital gain and 2,50,000 would be calculated as the professional income of the SSC under section 28 and under section 31. Read with section 1916. Hello. একটু আছি। Okay, ঠিক আছে। Thank you. So while framing the assessment order, the Deputy Commissioner of Taxes will write in the assessment order that the professional income is calculated so and so. Along with that, the income from the sale of the equipment is also calculated under this section, read with section 1916, and capital gain under section 31, read with section 1916. So that should be mentioned by the Deputy Commissioner of Taxes in the assessment order. Okay. I think it is okay for you, clear?
Okay,
Okay,
sir.
sir.
Then go to problem number 4. What is said there? Mr. X was running a pharmacy at a place in Lokhi Bazar, Dhaka. That means he was the owner of a pharmacy at Lokhi Bazar, Dhaka. The pharmacy was constructed by the side of a road, which was narrow and needed to be widened. That means the road in Lokhi Bazar was very narrow, and the municipality or the city corporation thought that it has to be widened. So in order to widen the road or straight, it has to acquisition the land. That means pharmacy was nearby the road or on the side of the road, so that's why pharmacy has to be demolished. And since the pharmacy was demolished by the city corporation, that's why compensation money was given to the owner of the pharmacy. Can you mute it, please? So the owner of the pharmacy was given a compensation money by the municipality or municipal corporation or city corporation, whatever it is. So you have been given some information. The information is that the building was constructed at a cost of 12 lakhs 10 years ago. So building was constructed 10 years ago, and that time the construction cost was 12 lakh. But now the compensation money received by the SSC was 20 lakhs from the city corporation. The trader charged depreciation at the rate of 10% each year. After demolishment, the scraps, including old bricks, rods, etc., were sold out at 1 lakh. What would be the effect of the demolishment of the pharmacy on the income of Mr. X? And you have to advise accordingly when the SSC has approached you. or since he has already approached you.
স্যার সেকশন 1918 স্যার।
Yeah, 1918. So
Yes.
what shall you do? If you have to calculate the total profit, total income, etc., or capital gain, whatever it is,
Yes, sir.
how to calculate, what would be the figures?
Total profit 9 lakh and capital gain.
So how much he has got compensation? He has got taka 20
20 lakhs,
lakhs as compensation. So that is the figure he has received.
Okay.
And his construction price, that is the cost of construction, was 12 lakh taka 10 years ago. And since he has calculated depreciation on straight line basis at the rate of 10 years, so each year he has charged depreciation at taka 1,20,000. And for the last 10 years, the total amount of depreciation stood at taka 12 lakh. Okay, so the written down value is how much?
0.
0. So here we get one information, written down value is 0. So what 1918 says, if you receive a compensation money, insurance amount, or any amount in the term of compensation. So that figure, whether insurance money or compensation money or any other thing, if it exceeds the written down value, that would be the total profit. So here you have got 20 lakhs and your written down value is taka 0. So your profit would be 20 lakhs. But it is also said that so much of the excess as does not exceed the difference between the original cost and the written down value minus the scrap value or less the scrap value. Up to that, it would be your profit from business. That means difference between the original cost. Original cost is 12 lakh. Difference between the original cost and the written down value, less the scrap value. So if you deduct the scrap value from the written down value is 0. The scrap value is 1 lakh. So you are deducting 1 lakh from 0. It means minus 1 lakh. And again, if you deduct it from the cost of acquisition, that is 12 lakh. How much would be? So minus minus plus, so it should be 13 lakh.
13 lakhs, sir. 13 lakhs.
Okay, so 13 lakh would be the profit from business, and your total profit was taka 20 lakh. So if you deduct 13 lakh from taka 20 lakh, it would be 7 lakh. That 7 lakh would be your capital gain under section 31, and 13 lakh would be your business income under section 28. But both the incomes would be following the section 1918. That means the Deputy Commissioner of Taxes will write in his assessment order that business income of taka 13 lakhs had been calculated under section 28, read with section 1918, and again under section 31, capital gain, taka 7 lakh, read with section 1918. So this has to be mentioned by the Deputy Commissioner of Taxes in the assessment order. So is it clear for you? Or not? Tell me whether this is clear or not.
It's clear, sir.
Yes, sir. Clear.
Okay, good. Then let us go to problem number 5. In problem 5, it has been said that Mr. X is a retired government servant. He was allotted a piece of land by the government. He started building a house, taking loan from a bank. The loan amount was taka 30 lakhs. After the construction work started, it took him 2 years to complete the construction. After start of the construction work, it took him 2 years to complete it. However, in the meantime, taka 3 lakh each year was accrued on the borrowed capital. While construction work started, Mr. X purchased construction materials from a shop in Nawapur worth taka 10 lakh, which remained unpaid still now. At the end of 3 years, the construction was completed and he started receiving taka 1 lakh as rent from a tenant. He had received an amount of taka 10 lakhs from the tenant and nothing was said about the repayment of the amount. Assume some dates of your own and show the effect of these dealings on the income of the person as he sought suggestion from you. So have you understood the problem well? Mr. X was a retired government servant, but during his service in the government, he was allotted a piece of land. Generally, sometimes government allocates pieces of land to government employees, and he was also given a piece of land. And he took a loan from the bank amounting to taka 30 lakhs in order to construct the building. He started constructing the building, but he could not finish it within a short span of time. Rather, it took him 2 years to complete the construction. While continuing the construction work, he bought some construction materials or building materials from a shop in Nawapur Road, worth taka 10 lakh. But he could not pay off the bill that time, and it is still pending. That means outstanding. And interest was accrued on the borrowed capital because the bank, since it has given him loan, bank will charge interest every year. So 3 lakh taka each year was charged as interest, that is 10% of the borrowed amount. So every year 10 lakhs taka he had to count But since he did not have any income from the building, because the income of the building started after 3 years, so he could not pay off the interest to the bank. And now he has started receiving taka 1 lakh per month from a tenant. So that is the income which is being generated from the house. In addition to the monthly rental, the tenant in taka 10 lakhs, but now been mentioned about the repayment of that taka 10 lakh, whether it will be adjusted against the rental, monthly rental or not, it has not been mentioned. So what are the problems the assessee or the taxpayer would be facing because of these transactions? As a chartered accountant, you should first identify the problems and then you have to give solutions to the problems. So tell me one by one, what are the problems and how to solve them?
স্যার 10 লাখ টাকা স্যার he received 10 লাখ টাকা from the tenant, মানে ওইটা হলো 19/22 স্যার section.
Okay, good.
Sir,
And
unpaid material costs are income from other source হিসেবে treat হবে 1929 হিসেবে 9 section
Yes.
অনুসারে।
হ্যাঁ 1929 sorry
29, yes, 1929. Okay,
yes.
then any other problem?
আর স্যার লোন নিছে যেটা এটা 25 ডাবল জি স্যার, মানে তিন
What
বছর
would be the
পর্যন্ত
treatment?
কনস্ট্রাক্ট ছাড় পাবে স্যার। এটা 3 বছর 3 লাখ টাকা দিয়ে 3 বছর ভাগ দিতে হবে স্যার।
3 lakh taka each year, every year 3 lakh taka.
স্যার এটা 3 লাখ টাকার 3
He
বছর
can
ভাগ দিতে হবে।
adjust. He can adjust interest cost total 9 lakh in a year or 3 years. Next 3 years, fortunately.
No.
Okay. So what shall he do with this taka 3 lakh? How can he allocate that interest when he starts generating income from the tenant?
স্যার পার মান্থ 1 লাখ করে স্যার।
Per month 1 lakh. How? His interest is taka 3 lakh every year. So
স্যার এভরি ইয়ারে স্যার তো 3 লাখ টাকা সে ই করবে, বিয়ে করবে।
So actually, you see, the construction period was 2 years, I think.
2 ইয়ার্স স্যার, মানে 6 লাখ স্যার।
So during the 2 years, taka 6 lakh as interest has accrued. So this 6 lakh, since he could not generate any income, so he could not actually have any deductible expense. So when he started generating income, that means when his income from house property is being calculated by the Deputy Commissioner of Taxes, then he would be able to claim as deduction. How much could be claimed as deduction? His amount of
2 লাখ স্যার।
accrued interest is taka 6 lakhs, and that amount of taka 6 lakh has to be allocated over a maximum period of 3 years. So in each year, taka 2 lakh could be claimed as deductible expenditure against the income he is receiving from the house property. So in the first year of his income, his claim of interest would be taka 2 lakh plus taka 3 lakh, because 3 lakh is the amount that would be accrued in that particular year, and taka 2 lakh will be from the previous years. So taka 5 lakh would be treated as deductible expense under section 25. Is it okay?
Okay, sir.
And the amount of taka 10 lakh which was given by the tenant and nothing was said about it, about adjustment. So that 10 lakhs taka would be treated as income from house property by the Deputy Commissioner of Taxes. But
Yes, sir. House property, sir.
house property, yes.
1922.
24. Okay.
Yes, sir.
So, but he has got an option. Option is he can ask the Deputy Commissioner of Taxes to allocate that taka 10 lakh over a maximum period of 5 years. That means in the year in which he took it and for another 4 years. So this 10 lakh taka has to be allocated over a period of 5 years. That means taka 2 lakh each year. That could be treated as income from house property under section 24, along with the rental income. That means the annual value that would have to be calculated by the Deputy Commissioner of Taxes. And that is under section 1922. And the construction materials worth 10 lakh taka, which is still pending, that is still outstanding. And if it is not paid off within 2 years from the end of the year in which the materials are purchased, it should be treated as income from other source under section 33.
33, sir.
Under section 33. So that would also be treated as an income of the SSC. So I think these are the problems here. And you can advise the client accordingly how to deal with those. Is it okay?
Okay, sir.
Okay, sir.
Good. Okay, now tell me if you need any break.
Yes, sir. It may be.
Yes, sir. ব্রেক হলে ভালো হয় স্যার।
For how many minutes?
15 minutes.
10 to 15.
15. Okay, so after 15 minutes, you come back.
So thank you.
Okay.
Thank you,
Thank you,
sir.
sir.
Thank you, sir.
Come back.
বৃষ্টি থামে না আমার নতুন রাখতে যাবো তোমার সঙ্গে আচ্ছা তোমার শরীর ভালো ওষুধ খাচ্ছ
জি ওষুধ খাচ্ছি
আচ্ছা ওইটা দেখবো ওষুধটা করে নেক্সট সেটটা কয়দিন আছে ডেট
আমি দেখেছি এটা আছে ডিসেম্বর পর্যন্ত
ঠিক আছে ওটাও পাওয়া মুশকিল আছে ওটা আমি বলে রেখেছি ওই দোকানদারকে
আর আঙ্কেল আরেকটা জিনিস হচ্ছে আমি অনলাইনে পেয়েছি
কোনটা?
গ্যাভিসকন
কোন কোন দোকানে
আমি পেয়েছি অনলাইন একটা ওয়েবসাইট আপনাকে দেখাই
দেখা যাবে শীর্ষ এবং দীপা এটা কি ইংল্যান্ডে না কোন জায়গাটা ইন্ডিয়া
আমি জিজ্ঞেস করবো না
অবশ্যই ইন্ডিয়ার তো ছড়াছড়ি আমি ওটা তো কিনবো না
So everybody come back.
জি দাদা
Yes, sir.
Okay.
দাম
Yes, sir.
Good. Good. So let us start.
ইউকে না দাম বললে
কোথাকার
1580
Number 6 problem.
তার মানে ইউকে না
জানি না জিজ্ঞেস করতে হবে কোন জায়গায়
What is the nature of liquidated damages
কান্ট্রি অরিজিন
received by a company
কান্ট্রি অরিজিন
from the supplier of plant for failure to supply machinery to the company within the stipulated time? Is it a capital receipt or a revenue receipt? So you have to understand what actually happened. Liquidated damages, what does it mean? Hey, Bose.
এখানে বুঝা যাবে না
When there is a breach of contract,
এখানে লেখা
it means that
অ্যাসিড
there could be some damages to your business.
I'm interested to know
So
হ্যাঁ কোন দেশি সেটাই
you are entitled to receiving a compensation money from the supplier of plant.
UK ওটা একটা মনে হয় ফেলে দিছে
That means you are supposed to set up a plant
মনে হয়
in a factory. Maybe it was a cement factory,
খোঁজার চেষ্টা করছি না
and the supplier could not supply you the necessary plant, and that's why you are delayed in operation of the business. Since you are delayed in operation of the business, so profit was not actually being generated in your company. So the supplier failed to supply the machinery within the stipulated time, and that's why you incurred a loss. That means you could not start your operations from a particular point of time as you decided, and that's why you are deprived of the losses. Deprived of the profit. So the supplier actually paid you a compensation money, and this compensation money, whether it would be treated as a revenue receipt or a capital receipt in the eyes of income tax. That means what the Deputy Commissioner of Taxes would do with regard to this money you have received from the supplier.
So revenue receipt, maybe.
Revenue receipt. Okay. So can you cite any example, or can you refer to any case law? Because whenever you write the answer in that way, you have to refer to some of the case laws. What is your reason of saying that this is a revenue receipt? You have to find out the nature of the transaction. What is the nature of the transaction? The nature of the transaction was related to supply of machinery, that is a capital asset. So when a machinery is supplied to a company, that's a capital asset, and that capital asset would be used in the process of operation of the company in order to generate income. So the company could not generate income because the plant was not set up in stipulated time. So this transaction was relating to supply of the plant, and that was of capital nature. And the compensation money that was received by the company, that was also for the purpose of not supplying the capital asset. So this could be treated as a receipt in the That's why the compensation money was given to the company. So it is related to the capital nature of expenditure or income of the company. So it is company's income, and company's income is related to the nature of capital, because you are supposed to get the capital asset from the supplier company, and you are supposed to set it up for the plant. Maybe it was a cement plant, but you could not set it up in the stipulated time. So that's why the compensation money which was received, it was in relation to the supply of a capital asset. And since it was in the nature of supply of capital asset, this should be treated as a capital receipt, not a revenue receipt. And you can refer to a case, and that case is Shubhashish Cement Limited, Supreme Court of India. Is it okay for you?
Yes, sir.
So if you study the case laws, you would be able to analyze the problem. An analytical skill will be developed if you go through the case studies. So the answer would be given to you in the next handout. Maybe I will circulate it to all the students through the student counseling department. So answers will be given to you later on, but we have to analyze it first, and we have to find out the reasons why it would be a capital receipt or a revenue receipt. You can go to the next point. What is the nature of grant received by a subsidiary company from its holding company to recoup the losses incurred year after year and to enable it to meet its liabilities, capital or revenue? So a grant was received by a subsidiary company from the holding company to recoup the losses incurred year after year, to enable it to meet its liabilities. So the subsidiary company has got some liabilities and you have to pay it off. And if the subsidiary company has received some grants from the holding company, then what would be the receipt? What is the nature of the receipt?
Doesn't matter. I'll give you that.
What is your analysis?
Capital.
Capital receipt.
Yes, sir.
Okay, but you have to state the reasons why it is a capital receipt.
The subsidiary company to revenue generate করতে পারে না তার অন্য কোম্পানিকে দিয়ে, এই জন্য এটা সে যেটা দিছে সেটা ক্যাপিটাল হতে পারে স্যার।
Subsidiary company can generate revenue. Why not? Because if it operates in business, definitely there should be some sort of income for the subsidiary company. But the holding company can monitor. It can take care of the subsidiary company. If the subsidiary company lacks in working capital, the holding company can provide the working capital to the subsidiary company in order to smooth the operation of the business. Here it is said that the grant given by the holding company to the subsidiary company would be given for recoupment of the losses or recoupment of the liabilities, to pay off the liabilities by the subsidiary company. Because subsidiary company is not in a position to pay off the liabilities. So the holding company has to give it a grant.
My request to you is, you should not be addicted to business. It's my wife.
So you have to state the reasons why.
একটু ইন্টারাপ্ট করছি, নয়েজ শোনা যাচ্ছে অনেক।
Sorry?
তার নয়েজ হচ্ছে খুব, মানে কেউ কথা বলছে, একটু আনমিউট করতে হবে কেউ।
Okay, you cannot hear it well. All right.
কথা বলছে।
Okay.
কেউ স্যার কথা বলছে।
So let me just
ভাবছিলাম আমি শুনছি শুধু কথাগুলো।
Sorry?
স্যার আমি মনে করছিলাম আমার এখানে কোনো প্রবলেম হচ্ছে কিনা।
Oh, okay. Okay, now I think you would be able to hear me well now.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So the holding company actually came to the rescue of the subsidiary company. The nature of the subsidy has to be decided, has to be taken into account for arriving at a decision, whether it is a capital receipt or a revenue receipt. The High Court gave a decision on this. It is Handicrafts and Handlooms Export Corporation of India Limited. So the High Court decided that the grant given by the holding company in the case is in the nature of capital receipt, since its purpose is to secure and protect the capital investment made in the subsidiary company. That means the whole made an investment in the subsidiary company, and the holding company granted the subsidy to the subsidiary company in order to protect and secure the investment made by it in the subsidiary company. So that's why the nature of the case has to be taken into account. And for that reason, it is a capital receipt. Okay. Any confusion?
No, sir.
Okay for you?
Okay, sir.
Okay then. In the answer, you will be given the name of the company and the decision made by the High Court. And number 3, that means case number 3. Can power subsidy received by the SSC from the government year after year on the basis of actual power consumption be treated as a capital receipt or not? That is, the subsidiary was received by a company from the government year after year on the basis of the actual power consumption. So if the subsidiary is received by a company, it could be said that it is a capital receipt or a revenue receipt. So this is on the basis of the power consumption. That is, the units you would be consumed. If you consume more units, you will be receiving more subsidy. If you consume less units, you will be receiving less subsidy. So it is of trading nature. And since it is of trading nature, that means the revenue actually depends on the consumption of power. That means the subsidy is based on revenue receipt and use of the power, and that's why it cannot be treated as a capital receipt. Rather, it should be treated as a revenue receipt. And the case is Rashi Cement Limited. It's Andhra Pradesh High Court case. So when you refer to a case, it means that you can utilize or use the same verdict in a similar case in Bangladesh. I hope it is also okay for you. Let us proceed to the next problem.
Yes, sir.
In case the share capital is raised in a foreign country and repatriated to Bangladesh on need basis from time to time for approved uses, can the gain arising on the balance sheet date due to fluctuation in foreign exchange in respect of that part of share capital which is to be used as working capital be treated as a revenue receipt or a capital receipt? That means share capital was raised in a foreign country. Not the full amount of the share capital, rather a part of the share capital is raised in, and it is repatriated to Bangladesh on need basis from time to time. Approved uses. That means it is raised in another country, but it has to be repatriated to Bangladesh because it has to be channeled through bank and it will come to Bangladesh to the company. So what the gain arising out of the fluctuations in foreign exchange be treated? Because you raised the income in foreign currency sometime before, maybe 1 year before or 6 months before, and by this time you are supposed to get the amount from that country, that is, it has to be repatriated to you, and by the time the rate in foreign exchange has changed, that means you will be gaining something out of the fluctuations in foreign exchange. Say, for example, your price, your currency has gone down, so that's why you will be receiving more amount of money. And in that case, there will be a gain from exchange rate fluctuation. And what would be the treatment of this gain? Give your decision, please. Anybody from you? No idea from your side?
Yes, sir.
So what shall you write is that the capital raised, whether in Bangladesh or outside, can be utilized for the purpose of acquiring capital asset and to meet other expenses of the organization, that is working capital, for determining the nature of the receipt. Due consideration has to be given to the source of funds and not to the ultimate use of the funds. That is, the fund has to be utilized for any purpose. That is not a question. But the question is, what is the source of fund here? The source of fund is share capital. So you have raised share capital. The High Court therefore held that the entire gain has to be treated as capital receipt, as the source of fund in this case is capital in nature. So source of fund is of capital nature, because you raised the share capital, and share capital means it is of capital nature. So that's why exchange rate fluctuation has given you some chance to gain from the remittance. So that's why this gain would be related to the raising of share capital. And since it is related to raising of the share capital, that means it is of capital nature and it would be treated as capital receipt. So the case to be referred to Jagatjit Industries Limited, Delhi High Court. The case is not very important to remember, but the decision is important to remember, because on what basis decision has been given is the most important thing for your analytical skills. The more you study the case studies, you'd be able to analyze some problems in future. That is, the problems would crop up in many ways. So the problems are not static, rather the problems are dynamic in nature. So that's why you will be facing problems in different perspectives every day. That's why analysis of the problem is very important for you. Next problem. Can subsidy received by the SSC from the government of Bangladesh under the scheme of industrial promotion for expansion of its capacities, modernization, and improving its marketing capabilities be treated as a capital receipt? So the SSC is actually receiving some subsidies from the government under the scheme of industrial promotion for expansion of the capacities, modernization, and improving its marketing capabilities, be treated as a capital receipt or not. So this is relating to modernization of plant, machinery, building, etc., or expansion of capacities, or improving the marketing capabilities. So anything could be taken into account, but the government has given subsidy for those purposes, any of those purposes, but ultimate objective is to promotion of the company, promotion for expansion of the company. So you have heard of BMRE, I think. So it is more or less related to BMRE, balancing, modernization, renovation, and expansion, something like that. So this subsidy is granted by the government to the company, and that is for promotional purposes, for expansion or capacity building, or for improving its marketing capabilities, etc. And now what should be the decision? Here, what you have to do one thing. You have to understand the nature of the subsidy. Subsidy is given, and you have to understand the nature of the subsidy and not the form of the mechanism through which the subsidy is given. Mechanism of payment of the subsidy is not a matter of consideration here. Rather, the nature of the subsidy has to be taken into account. Of the subsidy, the nature of the subsidy is that government thinks that it is to enable the SSC to set up a new unit or to expand an existing unit. In that case, the receipt would be treated as a capital receipt. So this is for expansion of a unit or expansion or increasing the capacity of the marketing of the company. That means for the promotion, and in that way, the receipt would be treated as a capital receipt. This is also relates to the case Russell Limited, Calcutta High Court. This is from Calcutta High Court, and this is in case of Russell Limited. Is it okay?
Okay, sir.
Okay, good. Let us move to then the next problem. What is the nature of incentive receipt under the scheme formulated by the government of Bangladesh for recoupment of capital employed and repayment of loans taken for setting up or expansion of a sugar factory, capital or revenue? What is the nature of incentive received under the scheme formulated by the government of Bangladesh for recoupment of capital employed and repayment of loans taken for setting up or expansion of a sugar factory, capital or revenue? So here also you have to consider the nature of the transaction, nature of the subsidy, why subsidy was given by the government. But the purpose is mentioned here. The purpose for which the subsidy has been given by the government is mentioned here, because you will see the jute mills, the sugar mills in Bangladesh, those are actually running at losses. So if they want to survive, government has to give them grants. It is for different purposes. Different purposes means the industry should be allowed to continue. Maybe in future they would be able to make profit. And another factor is that there are so many employments in those factories, and people will be losing their jobs if the company is not allowed to run. So that's why government gives subsidy, and government has got some schemes under which it pays some subsidy to the companies so that they can operate or they can pay off the liabilities to the banks. So here in this case, the grant was given or subsidy was given in order to enable the company to set up a new unit or substantial expansion of an existing unit. So it means that the purpose is to set up a new unit or to expand an existing unit. So these are of capital nature. If you invest in setting up a new plant or new unit, or you want to expand an existing unit, both of them are for capital nature purpose. So those purposes are of capital nature. So that's why the subsidy received by the company from the government would be treated as a capital receipt, not as a trading receipt. Had it been a trading receipt, then it would have been treated as revenue receipt or revenue income of the company. So rather, this would be treated as a capital receipt and it will not be taxed. So the High Court of Andhra Pradesh not Andhra Pradesh, the Delhi High Court. So it is relating to Kishan Shakhari Chini Mills Limited. Kishan Shakhari Chini Mills Limited. So it's a High Court decision given on the law, that is income tax law. It is okay up to now.
Okay, sir.
স্যার একটা কথা বুঝি নাই, এই হাইকোর্ট ল মিন্স কি ইনকাম ট্যাক্স ল এই ধরনের কিছু বলছেন স্যার? মানে হাইকোর্টের রেফারেন্স গুলো ইনকাম ট্যাক্স
High Court gave a decision on income tax issue because this is an income tax issue because assessment was made by the Deputy Commissioner of Taxes, and when the case was referred to the High Court, it was referred to the High Court because of the against the SSC, because the Deputy Commissioner of Taxes treated this income as a revenue receipt, and the DCT taxed it. So the High Court gave a decision on the income tax problem of this case. That means the High Court gave verdict that the receipt received by the company from the government is of capital nature and not of revenue nature. So that's why it cannot be taxed.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
By the way, if I ask you one question, that means, can every case go to the High Court for decision if it is disputed? So, for example, the case is a disputed one. That means the SSC did not accept the verdict given by the Deputy Commissioner of Taxes. So he can go to the appellate joint commissioner or appellate additional commissioner, or afterwards to the appellate tribunal. But even he is not satisfied with the decisions given by the appellate tribunal, whether he could go to the High Court for each and every case of dispute. This is my question to you.
Sir, if anything clear in law, then I think we should not go to High Court for any decision.
Yes, of course, if it is clear in law, we should not go to the High Court. That is true. But there are some issues which are not very clear in law, because law cannot clearly spell out everything. there are some ambiguities in law, or there is a problem with interpretation, because you can interpret the law in one way and I can interpret the law in another way, but not in all cases, of course. There are some cases, of course. So my question is that whether for each and every case of dispute, the SSC can go to the High Court.
Sir, if the SSC does not satisfy the DCT or appellate tribunal decision, then anyone can go to High Court.
Say, for example, I give you an example. The example is that you are an SSC, you are a businessman. So you submitted accounts to the Deputy Commissioner of Taxes, and you submitted, trading account, profit and loss account, balance sheet, and sales book, purchase book, other daily registers, etc., bank statement, vouchers, receipts, etc. And now the DCT says that, okay, your sale is not vouched and verifiable. That means you did not maintain vouchers for each and every transaction of sale. That means whenever you made sales, that sale is not supported by, voucher. Or you did not enter the transaction in the daily sale book. So in that case, he estimated the sale. Say, for example, you showed your sale at taka 10 crores, but DCT came to a decision that since the voucher are not well maintained, or you did not maintain 100% vouchers, so he did not accept your sale, that is the shown sale. So 10 crores of taka was raised to 15 crores of taka. That means your estimated sale was taka 15 crores by the DCT. DCT estimated the sale at taka 15 crore in place of taka 10 crore. So reason he stated in the assessment order that each and every sale was not vouched and verifiable, or the SSC could not produce voucher for each and every sale transaction. So that's why I have estimated the figure of sales at taka 15 crores in place of taka 10 crores. This is stated in the assessment order. So you are not satisfied with that order. We have gone to appellate Joint Commissioner. Again, he did not reduce it. And you went to the tribunal. In the tribunal, it was also not reduced, or it was reduced by a very scanty amount of money, maybe from 15 crores to 12 crores, something like that, or 13 crores. So in that case, whether you can go to the High Court or not. So this is a specific case I am mentioning to you, and whether your client or you as the SSC or as the taxpayer or as the businessman could go to the High Court for redress of the problem.
Yes, sir. We may go to High Court because we can show our bank reconciliation or bank statement or purchase or sales book.
Okay, so you can show the bank statement or you can show the bank reconciliation statement, yes, but if it is said by the DCT that each and every sale was not through bank, rather there was some cash sales, Then what shall you do?
We can show our previous prior period audited report.
Sorry, I could not understand. Tell me again, please.
Previous year sales.
Okay, so whatever you have, you might have some evidences in support of your sale, but it has been estimated at a higher figure. And you have said that you can go to the High Court for redress. But in this case, you cannot actually go to the High Court because this is a factual issue. When the issue is factual one, you cannot go to the High Court. When the issue is a legal one, then you can go to the High Court. So this is a factual issue. It means that sale was estimated. There is no legal point in it. Law point is not there. So when there is no legal point or law point in a transaction or in a case or in an issue, it cannot go to the High Court for decision. High Court will not accept it. If only it is a law point to be decided by the High Court, then it will accept. So in our previous case, that was a law point, because whether the receipt would be treated as a revenue receipt or a capital receipt, that is a legal point. Or the issue is related to law point. So that's why High Court will accept it and you can go to the High Court for decision. But in this case, up to tribunal you can go. And beyond tribunal, you cannot go anywhere. You have to accept the tribunal decision. Okay, so you have to advise the client accordingly. When client approaches you, that whether he can go to the High Court for redress of the issue, you should advise him that yes, there is no point in going to the High Court because High Court will not accept your case. Your point has to be fought in the tribunal at best.
স্যার আরেকটু যদি ল পয়েন্ট আর হচ্ছে ফ্যাকচুয়াল পয়েন্টের আর দুই একটা উদাহরণ দিয়ে যদি একটু বলতেন আর একটু ক্লিয়ার।
Okay, law point, what I have said is that you have got a receipt and receipt is capital receipt or revenue receipt, either of the two. It could be a capital receipt or it could be a revenue receipt. So if it is a revenue receipt, definitely it is your income and it will be taxed. But if it is a capital receipt, it will not be taxed. So when it is a capital receipt and the Deputy Commissioner of Taxes treats it as a revenue receipt, then he is wrong. Legally, he is wrong. So in that case, you can go to the High Court after tribunal. If in the tribunal you cannot have the appropriate result or desired result, then you can go to the High Court. But factual issue is that, like sale estimate I have told you, or I have told you that you showed an expenditure. So many expenditures you claimed in the profit and loss account. So maybe after deducting the expenditure, the net profit was calculated. So all the expenditures, what is generally seen? It is generally seen that the expenditures are not 100% vouched and verifiable. So what the DCT does, the DCT actually deducts from the claimed expenditure. That means you have claimed promotional expense or distribution expense or marketing expense. Say you claimed 20 lakhs taka as promotional expense, but you could not give the full vouchers, entire vouchers. So what the DCT will do? DCT will deduct from this 20 lakhs taka a certain amount of money, maybe 10% or maybe 15% or 20%. So if he deducts 20% from this 20 lakhs taka, it means that 4 lakhs taka has been deducted. So he has allowed you 16 lakhs taka. So you can contest it in the appellate tribunal or in the appellate, before the appellate joint commissioner or before the appellate tribunal. So the decision given by the appellate tribunal would be the final decision, because if the tribunal says that, okay, 20% has been deducted from the expenditure you have claimed, but the tribunal thinks it is correct, or the tribunal just deducts 10% against 20%, that could be done. But even if the tribunal does not interfere with this action of the Deputy Commissioner of Taxes, then you have got nothing to do. You cannot go to the High Court for redress of the issue. Is it okay
Thank
for
you,
you
sir.
now?
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Thank you.
আরেকটা ইস্যু ছিল স্যার, অল্টারনেটিভ ডিসপিউট রেজলিউশন, এটা এডিআর যেটা স্যার, এটা একটু যদি ক্লিয়ার করতে স্যার।
ADR?
এডিআর, জি স্যার।
Oh, ADR is different. That is alternative dispute resolution. So there is like a committee or a board. So you can go to the board or committee in order to settle the tax. It means that the government side would be there and the SSC would also be there. So it is just like the, agreement between the two. Government side will say that, okay, if tax liability could be paid up to this amount of money, then we will accept. And the SSC also says that, okay, let me pay this amount of taka as against this amount of taka, which was claimed by the Deputy Commissioner of Taxes. So there is an agreement. So if they agree, that means both the parties agree, then it could be settled. So if it is settled in the area, then it's fine. There is no point to go to any other court or something like that. So that's the final. So it actually lessens the procedural problems, of course, cost as well, because when you are going to the High Court, you have to pay fees to the lawyers. If you go to the tribunal, you have to pay fees to the tribunal, as well as you have to pay a certain amount of tax, which was actually calculated by the Deputy Commissioner of Taxes. Certain amount of money has to be paid in advance before going to the tribunal. So that's why it is always better to go to the ADR, and if you can reach an agreement between the two parties, that means the government side, Taxes Department, and the SSC side. So it's always better. Is it okay?
Yes, sir.
Good. What is the next problem I have given to you? Have you got the synopsis? One problem I have given to you is that can the payment to police personnel and hooligans to keep away from the cinema theaters run by the SSC be allowed as deduction? If there are some hooligans or police personnel who are disturbing you in the cinema hall, and if you pay them, whether that would be treated as an allowable deduction. That means you are having income from business, cinema business, and you are claiming that you have some money to the police personnel or the hooligans in order to keep them away from the cinema hall. So that's why that is a deductible expenditure, and you claim that expenditure in the profit and loss account while submitting the accounts to the Deputy Commissioner of Taxes, whether this would be treated as an allowable expenditure or not.
স্যার অ্যালাউয়েবল হবে স্যার, কারণ এটা হচ্ছে যে মানে বিজনেস, তার বিজনেসটা তো হচ্ছে স্যার সিনেমা দেখানো, দেখি লাভ করা। সেক্ষেত্রে যদি কিছু দাঙ্গা হাঙ্গামা হয়, সেক্ষেত্রে এটাকে যদি প্রোটেক্ট করার জন্য বিজনেসটা বা তার বিজনেসটাকে প্রোটেক্ট করার জন্য হচ্ছে সে পুলিশ রেখে এটাকে এদেরকে এই দাঙ্গা হাঙ্গামা বন্ধ করছে স্যার, তাহলে সেটা তো স্যার অ্যালাউয়েবল হওয়ার কথা।
But whether the nature of the payment is legal or illegal, is it a legal expenditure?
No, sir.
এটা অ্যালাউয়েবল এক্সপেন্ডিচার না স্যার।
It is not a legal expenditure. If it is not a legal expenditure, then you cannot claim it in the profit and loss account, and it will not be deductible by the Deputy Commissioner of Taxes. So the nature of the is the prime factor here. It is not legal expenditure. It is, you have incurred the expenditure, that is true, but it is not legal expenditure. In that case, it will be disallowed by the Deputy Commissioner of Taxes. So this is also sorry,
sir, if we can make any security guard to protect
yes,
this, then it
that
can
is
be
okay.
illegal.
Security guard, he is on the payroll. He is on the payroll of the cinema hall. So he is taking the money as salary every month. That is okay. That is legal.
Permanent employee, or he can hire by private security. It can
Private
be
security, yes, that is also employment. That is also employment, no problem. This is as per agreement with the security company. That is, you are outsourcing some personnel, security personnel. You can do that. It's not a problem.
আন্ডারস্ট্যান্ড স্যার।
Okay, good.
স্যার একটা প্রশ্ন ছিল স্যার, আমরা অনেক সময় মিসেলেনিয়াস এক্সপেন্স করে থাকি অনেক ক্ষেত্রে, এন্ড এটা অ্যাকাউন্টস এটা অ্যালাউ করা হয় যতটুকু জানি, যে একটা লেভেল পর্যন্ত ডিসিটি এটা অ্যালাউ করে। তো মিসেলেনিয়াস এক্সপেন্সের অধিকাংশই কিন্তু ইলিগেল। আমরা যেটাকে
If it is illegal, then it cannot be treated as deductible expenditure. Whatever you have said about miscellaneous expenditure, that means you could not put them under a head. It is miscellaneous, but it should not be illegal. Say, for example, another case I have given to you is that the clinic is paying some money to the doctors, referring the patients to the clinic. That means the doctor is sending some patients for diagnosis purposes in the clinic, for test purposes, diagnosis. So the doctor is paid a commission by the clinic. Whether this would be an allowable expenditure or not.
allowable expenditure হওয়া উচিত. It should be allowable.
Why should it be an allowable expenditure?
Is it illegal?
Not illegal, sir.
But he can.
It's a commission. It's a kind of commission.
The purpose of the doctor is to send the patient to a clinic for diagnostic purposes. Why should he get commission from the clinic?
As an Sir, is it illegal expense? But
Because
the business treat
patients should be sent to any clinic,
development expense.
and this is necessary for treatment. If diagnosis is not made, how can the doctor treat the patient? So while treating the patient, the doctor is receiving money as fee from the patient. But why diagnostic centers should send money to the doctor as commission? There is no agreement between the doctor and the diagnostic center that if you refer patients to my clinic, then I will pay you a commission. It is illegal, totally illegal.
স্যার যদি এগ্রিমেন্ট থাকে তাও তো এটা ইলিগেল।
Agreement, if it is in agreement, then it is also illegal. There might be an internal agreement between them, but that is also illegal. They cannot show it to you. Okay.
ওকে
স্যার
স্যার।
আমার একটা কোশ্চেন ছিল স্যার, সেটা হচ্ছে মানে ব্যক্তির ক্ষেত্রে যেমন স্যার 5 লাখ টাকা পর্যন্ত লোন ক্যাশে নিতে পারে বা দিতে পারে, কোম্পানির ক্ষেত্রে স্যার এখানে মানে কোনো কি লিমিট আছে যে লোন দেওয়া এবং নেওয়ার ক্ষেত্রে অ্যালাউবল লিমিট আছে স্যার ক্যাশে?
There is no such law with regard to the payment of loans, etc. to companies, but that applies to individuals, as you have said. But there are some issues with relation to the companies. Say, for example, when the companies are buying machineries, buying some vehicles, what is the payment they have made, and it should not exceed the paid up capital by a certain percentage. If it exceeds the paid up capital by a certain percentage, definitely it will be added back to the income, something like that. There are some issues in relation to the companies, and also there are some issues relating to the individual. As an individual, if you want to buy a machinery from the company, and if it is found that the price of the machinery has been fixed at a very low price, which is not as per the market condition, that is market price. So in that case, the difference money would be added to the income of the individual, something like that. So there are some issues between individuals and companies, and of course between companies and companies, but depends on the situation and specific issue. We can discuss some of the issues later on, citing some examples. Okay then. So I believe we have discussed some of the issues this evening, and please go through the synopsis and the cases which I have referred to. That means the answers will be given to you later on through the student counseling department, and then you try to analyze them well and try to understand why the decision has been given in such a way. And I believe you have got enough analytical skill, and you can also develop your analytical skill in light of the cases or the verdicts given by the High or the Supreme Court. Okay?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Okay, then we can now stop here because it is already 10 o'clock. And thank you very much for your attendance.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you,
Thank
sir.
you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Welcome.
Assalamu alaikum, sir.
Walaikum assalam.
Sir, namaskar.
Namaskar.
Namaskar, sir.
হ্যাঁ, অভিজিৎ কুন্ডু ভাইয়া, আপনি কি আছেন লাইনে? অভিজিৎ কুন্ডু ভাইয়া, আপনি কি আমার কথা শুনতে পাচ্ছেন? আপনি না বেরোলে লাইন অফ হবে না, মানে আপনি হোস্ট হয়ে আছেন।